Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Monday, April 11th school committee meeting. Top of the agenda is public comment. Is anybody in the room? Public comment? Is there anybody online that raised their hand?
2 seconds. Not yet. We might want to give them a little bit longer just
Because we
log in.
opened up, yeah.
Madam Chair, at this point, I see 3 attendees, none of whom have their hand up.
Okay, we will proceed. Okay, at this time, I would like to request a motion to open the school choice public hearing for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Cobblemare,
Second.
a second by Ms. Saros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you may know, each year under the Ed Reform Act, all communities have to make a decision about whether or not to participate in school choice. School choice is the program that allows students who do not live in Braintree to come and attend school in Braintree, or vice versa, students from Braintree to go to other communities and attend their schools. Historically, we have not participated in school choice. But every single year, this committee must review our status and decide based on a vote of whether or not to participate in the following year. From our perspective, particularly in this year, the financial implications of being part of school choice could be problematic for us, given the fact that we have scarce resources. As you probably know, we do get some reimbursement for students were we to participate in school choice and if they came to us. However, I would make the argument that it would not offset the costs of those additional students. We are also faced with the unknown of whether or not some of the students that we had leave under COVID, and again, that's over 400 students, may return next year. And with that as an unknown, we do not know exactly what the impact class sizes would be should we allow other additional students to come into the district. For those reasons, I would make the recommendation that we continue not to participate in school choice, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Chair.
Compliment.
As far as transportation, who's responsible for providing transportation to either school?
That's a great question. In school choice, the parent or the guardian would be responsible for providing the transportation. We would not.
Okay, the school district.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
Sure. Is it popular in the state, or is it there are a lot of schools that opt into that? Or
there are a lot of schools that do opt into it. For some school systems, and I've been part of school systems in the past that did participate. Some of the revenue is enticing to those school systems. Some school systems have declining enrollment that is significant. So the ability, they have the chairs, they can take the students, and with it, they can take some revenue, often helps in budget processes. In districts I have been in where we participated, it's a little dangerous to even get into school choice, because once you're in, you are truly in. Those students who come to you via school choice are allowed to stay whether you continue to participate or not, all the way through graduation. And if population increases, all of a sudden you can find yourself faced with some class size issues, and the additional revenue does not offset, again, the expenses of having those students. So it is, there are numbers of communities that do participate, but I would suggest it's probably not in our best interest to participate.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the public?
1 second. I do not see any online participants with their hands up.
Okay. Then with that, I will ask for a motion to opt out of the Massachusetts School Choice Program for the 2022-2023 school year with our forecasted budget challenges and with the knowledge that those students who left during the pandemic may return to our schools. We do not believe that there isn't any advantage for Braintree to participate in the school choice program.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Cobblemare,
Second.
a second by Ms. Saros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to request a motion to open the public hearing for the FY23 school budget.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Cobblemare,
Second.
second by Ms. Saros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. The public hearing for the 2022-2023 school year budget is now open. Mr. Lee.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Although I know that most of the members of the committee have seen this presentation before, I would like to once again walk you through it. It'll culminate in what we'd be looking for in terms of a proposed budget. But again, just to start at the beginning, meaning where did we end up at the end of the budget FY22? As you recall, we made several reductions across the board, most importantly in terms of reading specialists, math specialists, writing teachers at the middle school, reductions to central office staff, and other reductions taken because of enrollment. Enrollment reductions occurred because of dwindling numbers in certain sites and in certain classes. Typically, these are reductions or shifts that we would make in any given year. However, given the financial constraints of last year, we actually took them as overall budget reductions. Initially, those reductions at the middle school level resulted in 10 positions. At the elementary school level, it was a decline in 7 positions, at the preschool 2, and at the high school 1. Again, the asterisks indicate that after the budget was passed and time continued, we were able to bring some of those positions back. In terms of FY 2022, what we had looked at initially as a rollover of a maintenance of effort budget of $76,659,152, by the end, in terms of the budget we actually proposed, we resulted in a budget of $71,574,118, a reduction of $5 million or over 7% in terms of a decline. Again, I know this is repetitive for some. I had been contacted by Senator Timothy's office looking for indications in terms of what our budget priorities would be should his office be able to find or support our efforts in some fashion. These are the items that we indicated to the Senator's office. First and foremost, it would be revenue replacement related to COVID. The local community suffered a lot of economic downturn as a result of COVID. We would hope that whether it be the state or the federal government, that they could assist us in revenue replacement while the local economy recovers, and which would allow us to operate our schools at the level that we're currently operating. Within the operating budget, our priorities would have included mental health services and support. We've talked at length about the condition of some of our students and families as they return from COVID, some of the traumatic experiences that they have had while not in school. We see the need for additional counseling and BCBA, board certified behavioral analyst support, both within special education and in regular education as well. We would also want to target remediation support to assist students in recapturing lost academic time. Obviously, the manner in which education was delivered last year was not conducive for all of our students, and many of them really fell behind as a result of that environment. So to be able to address the gaps in learning that they experienced would help tremendously and would move us closer to where we need them to be as they continue their education through the rest of the grades. Providing additional reading and math specialists would be of immense help, again, both in and out of the normal school day. Again, we indicated that last year during the vacations and during the summer, through the federal government, there was some grant money that was available for vacation programs and summer vacation programs, which we made full use of. We ran remedial programs during April vacation of last year. Through the summer, we ran an extended Spark program. We also ran additional programming at both the middle schools and at the high schools. Again, trying to catch students up from a very difficult year of learning. And lastly, what we communicated to the Senator's office was our desire that the state fully fund Circuit Breaker. Circuit Breaker, again, is for extraordinary special education expenses. Initially, the legislation had it being reimbursed at 75%, but that number often fluctuates based on the state's economy. It has been, running right around 72, 73%, sometimes below 70%. So our hope would be that, particularly in this given year, that they would fully fund circuit breaker at the 75% that the legislation indicated it would. We then went into a conversation around our enrollment. And again, you've seen the slide before, but I will once again call your attention to 2017, when in the district we had a student count of 5,682 students. Actually, 2018 was a little bit higher, 5,703 students. And that represents, in essence, the high watermark over the last decade or so. And I just remind you again that these numbers are October 1 counts. So these are the numbers that we had in district in October. So in 2020, October, this is pre-pandemic, we had an enrollment in the district of 5667. But as you can see, by the time October of 2021 rolled around, we began to get the first decline in enrollment due to COVID, and that number had dropped to 5,355 students. In October of this year, this current school year we are in, our enrollment was actually 5,244. So you can see between 2020 in October down to current day, we've lost over 400 students as a result of COVID. This is just a different graphical representation of that trend that I just showed you in terms of the other chart. You can see where in around 2016, these are broken out by age level. The blue represents grades K to 4, the red grades 5 to 8, the yellow grades 9 to 12. You can see around 2016, the blue line or the elementary level begins a decline, which in a corresponding fashion, you can see the increase as those students moved into the middle and the high school level, and those numbers begin to go up. However, in 2020, which again is going to be the beginning of COVID, you can see the market decline between 2020 and 2021, which is COVID, and those numbers have remained relatively solid into 2022. So there has been an overall enrollment decline across the district. As a result, as I demonstrated through this graph, these are section sizes in our elementary grades as of January of this year, 2022. And again, these are all our elementary schools. And you can see through grades 1 through 4 how small our class sizes are. Typically, we'd be looking to run grade 1, grade 2 classes at sizes of approximately 20 students. In grades 3 and 4, 23 to 24 students. You can see how low those numbers are in January compared to those desired numbers. And again, we're running class sizes in one case as low as 12 in one of our sections. So with that information and getting into the budget conversation, the FY22 approved budget, the budget that is operating and was voted for by this committee last year is a budget of $71,947,500. However, our actual budget, what we are truly spending this year, is a budget of $75,056,662. This is possible because of ESSER money and grant money that we received to the tune of $3,109,162. We are using that money, that one-time money, as an offset to the deficit between the 75 and the 71. So again, we are spending $75 million this year. When we began, we rolled that FY22 budget over to just maintain simply what we presently have, not adding anything, just maintaining what we have. So we started with a rollover budget of $77,076,702, or an increase over the 71.9, and I'll keep referring to that number because that's what we're actually going to be voting on, of $5,129,202, or an increase in 7.13%. However, because of some remaining ESSER money and some circuit breaker savings that we were able to realize last year, we are in a position to utilize $2.2 million of one-time money to offset those costs. That offset would allow us to be seeking a preliminary draft budget of $74,877,087, or an increase over the FY22 approved budget of 4%. As you all know, we work collaboratively with the town. We are a section of the town's budget. And so we work with the town and the mayor's office to make sure that the budget that we present is manageable for the town. And through some work in terms of reducing certain sections, and I again refer you back to the enrollment sizes I showed you, we were able to make some reductions to allow us to present a budget of $74,374,433, which would have been an increase over $71,947,500 of 3.37%. We again continued to work with the town and again seeking to hit some numbers that they would be able to manage. We came back at $74,074,433. This was possible through some salary differentials during the course of this year. We've had some people go out on leaves who will not return, at least in the next year. We can take the difference between what they were being paid and the salary being paid to those who are replacing them. We made some adjustments to sped costs that we have. And we also outsourced some of our expenses to grants that we have that got us down to a 2.9% increase. And then the final iteration that I'm presenting here tonight, again, in collaboration with the town, we've come in at a number of $73,472,068, which over the $71,947,500 represents a 2.1% increase. And we were able to do this through some work with our special education department around sped tuitions. And we feel comfortable that we have the adequate resources to address those tuitions as they come up. As you, I think, all know, that's a fluctuating number on an annual basis. We think we've budgeted effectively for it. That brings us to a 2.1% increase. To get there, from the preliminary draft budget of, if we go back one page, of $74,877,087. From that number, we made reductions. How we got there was reductions in elementary teaching positions, not people. These would be reductions taken through attrition. So no person who would be anticipating having a job with us next year would lose their job. We'd be able to reassign as necessary. Savings of $225,856. Adjustments, again, salary differentials, some salary book computations, making sure that all our numbers were correct. The overall savings in that represented $233,520. In terms of sped tuitions, which I just referenced, we were able to reduce that budget line item by $504,337. And then reallocating some expenses to grant or revolving accounts, particularly the athletic trainer, some positions in special education, technology and HVAC. Those are two grants that we received through the ARPA money. We were able to reduce the budget by $441,306, or a total reduction from the preliminary draft budget of $1,405,019. In terms of what we'd actually be spending, kind of the more important numbers, if you will, the FY22 overall budget, again, the money we are spending this year is $75,056,662. What we are proposing, including the $2.2 million in offset money, is a budget that would have us spending $75,671,683 next year, which is an increase of only 0.8%. I brought this up to the last meeting. I think it bears repeating, so indulge me if you would. In FY22, again, we have used $3.1 million in one-time money, but we still needed to reduce multiple positions in the district to be able to get the budget through. We are proposing in FY23 to use $2.2 million in one-time money, and again, we're looking at reducing those elementary positions that I indicated, as well as moving some other positions into revolving. One-time money means just that. When the money is spent, we don't have it anymore. It's not coming back the next year. So that 3.1 will have been spent. The 2.2 next year, as proposed, would have been spent. And the forecast for us having any significant amount of one-time money available for FY24 is not promising. We have used the savings that we were able to accrue during COVID through grant and circuit breaker money in not only the current year's budget, but in the proposed budget that I've presented to you. Unless the town is able to absorb the $2.2 million into the operating budget in FY24, the budget would need to be reduced by that amount. You know, we have talked in terms of a cliff. That would be the cliff. If we get to FY24 and we do not have the ability to absorb that $2.2 million into the operating budget, we will not have the one-time money to cover it. We would have to make corresponding cuts. Similar to FY23, the initial rollover of the FY24 budget will represent minimally a 7% increase over FY23. We typically roll over at around 4%, maybe a little under, not much if at all. However, you have to factor in the 2.2 million. If we want the operating budget to take on all the one-time expenditures that we've made, the operating budget needs to increase by $2.2 million. So the overall increase, given the fact that we normally roll over around 4%, is going to be over 7%. The impact of additional reductions would be disproportionate by site under our current configuration. And I gave the example that we have some classes in some of our elementary schools where there are 2 sections of 15 students. We cannot combine those into 1 section of 30. However, where there are other sites that have 3 or 4 sections of a grade, we can distribute that more evenly and more equitably. So the cuts will be taken from those sites and it would not be equitably distributed across the district. Equity and efficiency are not optimized in the current structure, and a work to improve on these areas would have a supplemental benefit of addressing the deficit. It would impact that 2.2 million shortfall that we're taking a look at. What I had requested, and you also kindly voted on, was a formal assessment of the district's configuration before these reductions become necessary. And as you know, you voted for a task force, which we are in the process of assembling now. So in terms of the overall budget, this is the budget. It is broken out by articles. There are 10 articles to be considered by this body. Article 1 is elementary school administration. Article 2, middle school administration. Article 3, high school administration. Article 4, curriculum and instruction. Article 5, curriculum development and PD, professional development. Article 6, building and grounds, maintenance and utilities. Article 7, general education, transportation. Article 8, athletics. Article 9, all other district-wide services. Article 10, technology and data processing. All of that adds up to 75 million and some change. And then what you see is the revenue offset. You would not be voting on the revenue offset. It is not part of the operating budget. I put it here so that you can see it, because that's what brings us down to that number that you would be voting on of $73,472,068. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Tuffy?
comments. So I would like to thank Mr. Lee for the work he's done and trying to squeeze every penny out of this budget and in a responsible way for our students. But as we know, this is very disappointing that we cannot restore the programs and cuts that we made last year. And hire more counselors, because that is a need that we see needs to be addressed. As I said last week, when I spoke with Mayor Kokoros at the meeting, I am disappointed that the town has not applied for the full amount that they can receive from the county. The county has $7.2 million that's allocated to Braintree, and thus far, the town has only applied for one of the 4 categories. That's revenue replacement. That gives us $720,000. There are other municipalities in Norfolk County have made multiple applications for the ARPA money, and I think that I have very mixed feelings about voting for a reduced school budget when the town has not applied for all the funds they're eligible for. In that regard, the school budget is being used to balance the town budget and shortfalls there. I have some really strong reservations about these reductions to our academic support and mental health programs. I I think that more effort needs to be made by the town to pursue that funding. We know that we're considering a consolidation of maintenance services. We will not have a decision on that until May 2nd, so that will affect the overall budget as well. And for the second year in a row, the school department is receiving less money for capital investments. Usually we get $1 million. We've got 850 in fiscal year 22 and 880 for 23. So I think that I would like to see more effort being made at the town level to ensure that the schools are funded and that our students who have taken, who have had a very, very hard 2 years have every advantage they need in order to get caught up academically and have mental health support.
Thank you, Ms. Tuffy. Ms. Howard, did you have?
Have we gotten any more word? She just mentioned the building and grounds, combining services. Have we gotten any, has there been any movement on that? What's going on?
Finance and Operations Subcommittee sent a series of questions to the Chief of Staff and DPW, and they did respond. And I shared all of those questions with the full committee, so you should have seen them if you haven't seen the email with the response. The Finance and Operations meeting, the next meeting is going to be April 28th. That we will take it up then, and then the subcommittee we're expecting at that meeting that the subcommittee will make a motion to move it forward to the school committee on May 2nd, and we'll vote then. But the maintenance, the amount of money that's up there, the $5 million, that it would just be a transfer to the town. So it wouldn't save anything in our budget. Our budget would be reduced by that $5 million, and that money would be transferred to the town if we decide to move that to the town. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
No.
Through the chair. Okay, a couple of things. These probably, again, I want to thank Mr. Lee for doing all the work. I realize you're in a tough situation here. You don't hold the purse strings, and you're doing the best you can with the amount of money that you have, and we appreciate that. With that said, and this really should be directed to the mayor, who's not here right now. Can we have some kind of accounting of all the COVID relief funds that were spent in the FYI 2023 budget? Is that $2,100,000?
So in the FY23, which is the budget to be voted on.
Right, this one here.
It's the remainder of the ESSER money that we have left. That's the end of it.
Right.
And it's circuit breaker savings that represent that $2.2 million.
Right, but
In terms of what was spent prior to that, it's all on our website. It's all broken out.
right, but I'm talking about this budget here.
Yep, it's part of the $2.2 million.
It's part of the 2.2. So we haven't spent any of the money for this budget. Nothing's been offset for the ARPA. Yeah, for the
FY23? No, because you haven't voted it yet, and we're not there yet, so to speak. So the ARPA money is represented. You can see where we said we're moving certain expenditures into grants. HVAC, that was ARPA money that we received, I think $175,000. Technology, we've received ARPA money to the tune of about $500,000. So we were able to offset the operating budget by corresponding amounts to get us down to that 2.1%. So we are using that money in a similar fashion as we are using circuit breaker and ESSER money to get to that it's actually more than 2.2 million at that point to get to a budget number that we believe the town can sustain.
Right, but as far as the town, they haven't offset anything.
No, obviously, working with the town, it's my responsibility to present a budget that's responsible to the town's needs. Obviously, Ms. Tuffy's point, there are other things we'd love to see in a budget. Given the time and the place, we're not able to put that in here in a way that we believe the town can sustain. So we make judicious decisions about what we keep in there and what we don't. That it's not to say that we don't think we need all the things that Ms. Tuffy is referenced. It just means that given the numbers that we're working with, this is the best budget we could put together given the resources that we have.
Okay. If Mr. Lynch has something to say, that's.
Lynch?
Yeah, I was gonna say, great work for you guys on your team, especially the past 2 years with everything going on with money going around. You guys really put it together. I share the same concerns as my fellow school committee members, especially with Kathy was saying, we're going to run into problems and, the kids are probably going to be the ones who pay for it. And it's almost like, well, what can we do? But at the same time, it's the kids who are probably going to suffer when we don't have those counselors around and that extra money. So it's going to be a hard year, but I mean, again, it's not really much we can do from it other than, the town coming in through with the money, but that's about it.
Did you have something else?
I did have
Okay.
something else. I would like to propose a resolution. And I'll read it into the record. The FY23 budget proposal will drastically limit the Braintree Public Schools system's ability to provide essential academic support and mental health services needed to address significant learning gaps and social emotional needs of our students. We believe that there must be adequate funding for the literacy specialists and programs, math specialists and programs, writing instruction at the middle school level, guidance counselors, licensed adjustment counselors, and SEL elementary staff. These vital resources are particularly critical at this time as our schools strive to meet the challenges presented by the pandemic and to maintain the high quality of education offered by our schools. Therefore, the school committee resolves that the budget allocation must be increased to effectively meet our students' needs and to ensure the excellence of the education we offer to Braintree students.
I'd like to second that resolution. It's being added to the record for tonight's meeting.
Discussion? I know Nick, of course, has just joined us. Abstain. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Copeland.
You're welcome.
Did you want to add anything? I know you're just joining us now. We opened the public hearing and we were just discussing it as a committee before we opened it up to the public completely. Did you want to add anything before we go or before we open it up to everyone has spoken? I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add before we open it up to the public.
But I'll just say that, we're working towards balancing the budget. Thank you. Working towards balancing the budget now. We're working to try to, retrieve some of this county money. That's a goal that we have right now. As of right now, it's not available for revenue replacement, but we're working with the feds as well as asking all of our different representatives to try to help us bridge the gap with some of this revenue replacement. So we'll continue down that path, and I think that staff has done a nice job at trying to create a budget that works. And I know a lot of time went into it, and I think we just have to keep moving forward from here. So we'll let you know as we work through the budget, and if we are able to find a way to take some of the county money and get it into the general fund. That's our goal. So that's about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Oh, Ms. Tuffy, second time.
I would just like to ask Mayor Kokoros if he has and does his staff have applied for any of the county money and the three other categories: public health emergency, premium paid to employees, and reduction in revenue, and water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So I realize that you've applied for revenue reduction, and you're only allowed 10% of that, of the 7.2 million for revenue reduction, but it seems like that the other categories are pretty broad. Respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 or its negative economic impacts. That seems like a pretty broad category to me that you could work on. We know that it was our nursing staff got some premium pay. That could be something. Although the water and sewer is an enterprise fund, we are building a new water plant, treatment plant. So we're looking at some pretty harsh reductions to academic support and mental health services in the school department. And I feel like I would like to know exactly where or what you're applying for. Or are you just waiting for the feds to change the rules?
Well, we're not applying for, we've already applied for the 3.5 million. They have not given us an answer. So it's kind of in limbo. But, in looking at the budget that was presented, I mean, the class sizes, did you guys go into the class sizes at all?
We've covered all that.
So, those are pretty amazing class sizes. It's almost at the level of what a private school would be, So, I think that administration is doing a great job at providing the best possible education for our students. So, I think that, regards to that, I think that budget reflects, a great effort and I think a successful budget to make sure that our students have best opportunity to learn. So in that area, but as far as the $7 million and 3.5 per year to use it for the enterprise fund, it's not something that really would benefit us on the budgetary side. So we're going to continue to work with our auditors to see if there's any way that we can utilize that money to offset our budget over the next 2 years. So that's pretty much it. You've looked at the categories and you can see by reading them that they really don't have any, there really isn't anything other than revenue replacement that is going to really benefit the town at this point when we need revenue replacement to help us through the next couple of years until, our numbers come back to where they need to be. So it was the whole purpose of ARPA. This whole purpose was, I don't know if you're familiar with the Paycheck Protection Program, but it worked tremendously because companies that lost money were given grants that they were able to have forgiven, loans that they were able to have forgiven, but it was based on need. We have a need, and we have had an analysis done by Powers and Sullivan, who are one of our auditing firms, and they showed, based on the formulas used, that we had about $23 million in revenue that we lost because of COVID. And, the whole purpose of the vote of Congress and the president signing ARPA into law was to help communities get through these hard times. And unfortunately, we're in a tough spot because of that county money, and we really didn't receive much compared to other communities directly. So the reality is we're going to keep fighting for that and trying to find a way of getting that revenue in. But the other categories really don't help the situation. And you've read them, so you probably understand as as well as anyone that they're not going to help us.
I do think that the other categories are fairly broad, and other communities have used them to apply for grants. I mean,
For revenue replacement, or, I mean,
or to respond to the public health emergency and its negative impact on the economy. That's a pretty broad category. One community, I understand it, used it for their to purchase new trash barrels for everybody in the town rather than taking it out of the town's funds, and that was a sanitation and public health. So I think that you definitely have to work harder for these, to apply for these grants than in the previous COVID relief money, where they just gave a lump sum to communities. But this is something that we really need to do our due diligence on, and I'm hoping that the town will come up with some strategies to do so.
well, to answer that, first of all, we are working very, very hard on this. And this is something we talk about every day. We don't ignore any opportunities that we can take to try to receive the money. We also do not want to use money in a way that's going to get us audited. And the county is extremely cautious in regards to how the money is used. So we're working directly with the auditors. As a matter of fact, we have meetings this week with both of them, and we're going to work with them to find out what legally we can do with the money and try to find a way of bringing it into our budget. But believe me, we are working very hard on this, and we have sent a tremendous amount of letters out to our congressmen, to our senators, to our governor, to our lieutenant governor, to our representatives in the State House, and we're going to send another one out. We're working on a second letter. So we are putting as much effort as can possibly be put into this, and we'll continue to do so. So don't worry about that. That is something we're working on right now.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Cobbleman?
Through the chair, thank you. Again, I agree with what Ms. Tuffy was saying, that there is broad interpretation of the grants and what the categories are. And I mean, Weymouth received $100,000 for materials for career and technology training at the high school. They received $100,000 for their senior center for food insecurities, loneliness, isolation. The teen center got $100,000 for the job training equipment. There was $100,000 for a boat ramp, pond cleanup. So I think these categories, again, need to be looked at, and we have to be a little bit more creative of how we can offset some of the operating budget so that we can put more money into the schools. Because, personally, I think we can do a better job with the budget, and I think the students deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say that, through the chair, Weymouth received $17 million direct, so mine, broken up into two separate payments. So if we had $17 million, forget about the county money, we would be in really good shape going over the next 2 to 3 years. So the reality of it is, it'd be great to use money for other things that would not generate revenue replacement if we had revenue replacement and we had maxed out our revenue replacement. So, we have to be conservative, and we have to utilize the money to fund our budget so that we can pay all our employees. And that's our goal. So although, Weymouth is a poor example only because Weymouth has $17 million with a budget of about 176 million. We had a little over 3.8 with a budget of 146 million. So you do the math. I mean, you can see the difference there. And, we certainly got far less money than they did based on what our budget is. So, of course, they're going to have the ability to use money for other things that, aren't part of revenue replacement. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? I also would like to thank Mr. Lee and Mr. Cronin for all the work on the budget, as well as the Finance and Operations Subcommittee. As we've said, we've been meeting with the mayor for several months now, going through the budget. And as you've highlighted, we started at the 7% and we have now come down to the 2.1. Thank you, the 2.1, which is what we have been told at this point that the town can support. So with that, is there any public comment?
At this point, there are no hands raised, but we can give them a minute and see if that changes. I see no hands.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I ask
Ms. Tuffy?
one question.
Yes.
If more funding comes in, will we be able to adjust this budget upward? I know the town council can only decrease budget. So once it goes to the town council, if the mayor is able to access the county money, will we be able to increase this budget? Or I just not sure whether
If additional funding comes in either from the county or the state or the federal government, we would assume, or we would hope that a good portion of that, or 50% or 51%, would potentially come to the schools if at all possible. Is that, or some percentage of it? Is that your question?
yes.
Well, through the chair, I mean, we are operating at a $2.1 million deficit right now. 2.2. So, that's another thing we have to be cognizant of.
Right.
So, I mean, the question is, to the superintendent, is this budget, this is what is your?
Well, and I know you've seen the presentation before, but tonight you're a little bit late. This budget keeps us whole. Is it ideal? No, it is not. But given the circumstances, given our responsibilities to the town, given the many conversations that we've had, we've put together a budget that I think is in the best interest of the school system at this point in time. As I have indicated, and it will continue to state, the bigger concern for us as a district is next year, that 2.2 million. If the money were to roll in, could we come back to the town for a supplemental and have a conversation about what we might be able to do in the short term around that 2.2? That'd be a great position for us to be in. It would, lower that gap of spending as we go into FY24. But we need to be in a much better position for FY24 because we have used the resources that we've had available to keep ourselves in a position where, although less than ideal, it's still strong for the students in the district as a whole. Again, it doesn't click all the boxes, but it keeps us in a place where I think, in terms of class sizes and the tremendous staff that we have, we can continue the good work that's been done this year. I will again express concern about FY24.
Ms. Pablo?
To the chair, thank you. With that said, and looking at FY 2024 and how devastating it could actually be, I want to ask the mayor, do we have a town spending plan or some type of financial plan?
Can you be more specific?
Well, so that we can, cover what we're looking at for next year. Do we have some kind of a budget? I mean, we have a budget here, but do we have some plan for the town on how they're going to, spend the money? And recoup, any revenue or anything like that? Does that make sense?
I don't understand the question, to be honest with you.
Any kind of fiscal plan?
Are you saying that we have a plan to bridge the gap of the 2.1
Yeah.
million? Is that the question?
Well, yeah, or in general, yeah.
I mean, obviously, we, as you know, we just had an announcement that we have a life science company coming. We have a lot of activity going on as far as new permits, et cetera. So, we're working towards bringing in more revenue. And, every year we've made adjustments and been as conservative as we can with the budget to make our way through it. I mean, we just suffered, a once in a lifetime pandemic. I mean, people weren't going to restaurants. They weren't going to hotels, and we lost a lot of revenue. So, I mean, of course, we're, working on first keeping our expenses reasonable, and at the same time, making sure that we increase our revenue through new growth. So that's our plan, and we've been pretty successful to this point. So I don't think anyone has, the ability to predict exactly where you're going to be at any given time. But, we're doing everything we can possible to bring in more revenue and keep our expenses low.
And the reason why I asked that, I heard that South Shore Plaza asked for a tax rebate.
They ask for one almost every year.
They do?
There's a lot of people that ask for them every year. They're one of them.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we haven't given them one.
No one else in the public?
There are still no hands raised in the public.
Okay. So with that, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Cobblemare,
Second.
second by Ms. Saros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. So the public hearing is now closed. So now I am going to read each one of these articles one by one. I'm just going to read the totals, and I'm going to ask for a motion and a second after each article. And then at the end, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for the total, the 73.4 million. And then there'll be one vote for all articles and the total. Okay, everybody good? Okay, so let me go through and I will ask for the motions. Article 1, elementary school administration, $1,488,806. I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Lynch. Second? Second? No one's going to second the article.
I'll second it.
Second by Mick, of course. Middle school, Article 2, middle school administration, $997,058. Motion and a second?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch.
Second.
Second by Mick, of course. Article 3, high school administration, $1,412,346.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch.
Second.
Second by Mick, of course. Article 4, curriculum and instruction, $56,881,405.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mick, of course. Article number 5, curriculum development, professional development, $266,657.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mick, of course. Article 6, building and grounds maintenance and utilities, $5,046,594.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mick, of course. Article number 7, general education transportation, $1,538,937.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mick, of course. Athletics, Article 8, $634,503.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mick, of course. Article 9, all other district-wide services, $5,608,385.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mick, of course. Article 10, technology and data processing tech department, $1,796,992.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Michael Kors. Total FY 2023 Braintree Public Schools budget, $73,472,068.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Michael Kors. With that, I have a motion and a second for all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
3-3. Passes 3-3. That brings us to the end of our budget.
That would bring you to the end of the budget.
Moving on to routine matters. The approval of open session minutes, April 4th.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Cobblemere,
Second.
second by Ms. Saros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Communications and commendations. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things to highlight over the last week or two that have gone on in the system. At the high school, we had Holocaust Remembrance Week that actually began the last week of March, but concluded on April 5th. Dr. Gorman Lee did an excellent job, as he always does, with this event. Had a number of guest speakers that students were able to listen to. Again, it's an annual event that he does so well year in and year out. We also had the East Variety Show, Almost Anything Goes, which ran on April 8th and 9th. Mr. Lavosky, again, tremendous job done by him and his crew. At Braintree High School, the musical Something Rotten ran from April 7th through April 9th. I had the opportunity to see that. Rave reviews. In fact, we've been getting emails today from some people who attended the event and loved every second of it. One thing I would point out, for those of you who know Jim Bowser has been one of the directors on the musicals for longer than I've been here, so that's quite a long time at this point. It was his last show, and so kudos to him and all the great work he's done for the district over that at least decade that I've been around. Kindergarten lottery, we are positioning ourselves to run the lottery on Wednesday, April 27th. Notice will go out to families affected by the lottery later this week to let them know the lottery will take place on that date. We'll have lotteries at a number of our schools. Not all of our schools will require one. But again, the lottery itself, April 27th, notice going out this week to families. And the last item that I have for those of you who are interested in attending tomorrow night at 7:30 in the Braintree High School auditorium is the induction of the National Honor Society, a great event every single year, highlighting some of our students who have really gone above and beyond at their time at BHS. And really have done a wonderful job.
Any questions or comments about the problem?
I had an opportunity to see the Holocaust exhibit at the high school, and they did a great job. It was very well done. So kudos to Dr. Lee and the students that did that. I also had the privilege of attending the production of Something Rotten, and that was awesome too. The cast and crew did a great job, and it was great. So thank you.
I also had the opportunity to go to Something Rotten, and both my kids were techies, so they worked with Mr. Bowser. So I want to thank Jim for all of his years of dedication to the kids. My son knows how to use a power saw and a lot of tools, thanks to Jim. So he's been able to do a few projects around my house as a result. So thank you, Mr. Bowser, for that. And as usual, their time and their energy and their preparation that went into that play. It's amazing to me that it's 14 to 18-year-olds doing this present, and the big musical numbers it's outstanding. So congratulations to all of them.
Looking forward to seeing them on Broadway.
Absolutely. Great show. Okay, moving on.
Sure.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
I just wanted to also congratulate them on such a great performance. I got to attend opening night, and the talent was just incredible, and the show was funny and fun to watch, and it was really wonderful experience. So congratulations to them all. Good stuff.
Yep. Moving on to superintendent and staff.
The only thing I have for you, which you'll find in your packet, is a listing of the end of the year events that are forthcoming. So depending upon your own schedule and what you're interested in, there's something for everybody on the list. It runs obviously from April 28th, I believe, all the way to the end of the year and graduation. So if you are so inclined, please feel more than welcome to attend any of the events that you see listed. It is a really exciting time of year for not only our staff and our students, but for families as well, as we kind of culminate the 2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Then moving on to the school committee student representatives, which do not appear to be in attendance
It
this
was
evening.
70 degrees and sunny today.
There must have been something going on tonight.
Right.
So we won't have any updates this week from them. And that is it. Is there anything else any other school committee updates? I don't think so. Okay, with that, our next meeting will be Monday, May 2nd at 6:30 here. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
And most of my second by Ms. Saros. Ms. Tuffy.
Aye.
Ms. Saros.
Aye.
Mayor Kokoris.
Aye.
Ms. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.